the scam of politics, power, wealth, and the betrayal of public trust. In the modern political landscape, it's easy to be caught up in the theatrics of democracy, where political parties present themselves as champions of the people, vying for the public's favor. But beneath this carefully crafted facade lies a more sinister reality. Politicians and elected representatives, regardless of their party affiliation, are often more concerned with enriching themselves and maintaining power than serving the public good. Democrats and Republicans, despite their surface-level differences, share a common goal: to secure their positions and line their pockets. In many ways, they serve the same elite interests that place them in power, making their rivalry akin to the competition between Coke and Pepsi. Different brands with similar outcomes, both ultimately detrimental to the public's health. The illusion of choice. The political arena is often likened to a sporting event where taxpayers and voters pick sides with the enthusiasm of fans cheering for their favorite team. Yet, just as fans may not truly know the players beyond the jerseys they wear, voters often lack a deep understanding of who or what they are voting for. This superficial engagement is precisely what the political elite rely on to maintain their grip on power. By presenting themselves as opposing forces, Democrats and Republicans create the illusion of choice, distracting the public from the reality that, at their core, they serve the same interests. The competition between them is a carefully staged performance designed to keep the masses invested in a system that ultimately works against them. Politicians as criminals with badges. Elected politicians are often no different from criminals, except they operate with the protection of the law. With the power vested in them by the state, they can manipulate systems, exploit loopholes, and protect one another from accountability. This is not a new phenomenon. History is replete with examples of politicians using their positions to commit crimes, from bribery and corruption to outright theft. Consider the Watergate scandal of the 1970s, where members of President Nixon's administration were implicated in a series of illegal activities, including burglary and wiretapping, all in the pursuit of political power. The scandal exposed the lengths to which politicians will go to maintain control and protect their interests, even at the expense of the democratic process. Despite the eventual resignation of Nixon, the fact remains that such behavior is far from an anomaly. It is part and parcel of a political system that rewards those who can navigate its corrupt corridors. The worship of power and money. At the heart of this political scam is a relentless pursuit of power, which in the modern world is often synonymous with wealth. Politicians are not merely interested in public service. They are driven by a desire to accumulate power, which translates into money and influence. This pursuit has led to a revolving door between politics and the private sector, where former politicians often find lucrative positions in industries they once regulated. For example, many former members of Congress become lobbyists after leaving office, using their insider knowledge and connections to influence legislation in favor of corporate interests. This practice, often referred to as the swamp, is a blatant example of how politicians leverage their positions for personal gain. The public is left to foot the bill while the wealthy elite continue to consolidate their power. Centuries of betrayal. The betrayal of the public by those in power is not a modern invention. It has been a feature of governance for centuries. The Medici family in Renaissance Italy, for example, used their political influence to amass great wealth while ruthlessly eliminating rivals. Similarly, the British Empire's exploitation of its colonies was facilitated by politicians who prioritized the empire's wealth over the well-being of the colonized peoples. In the United States, the Gilded Age of the late 19th century saw politicians in the pockets of industrial magnates, allowing the rise of monopolies and the exploitation of workers. This era was marked by extreme wealth inequality, where the rich grew richer at the expense of the working class, all under the watchful eye of a government more interested in protecting the interests of the wealthy than in ensuring justice for all. The true adversary, the public. The reality is that politicians, regardless of their rhetoric, often see the public as their true adversary. They may campaign on promises of change, but once in office, their primary concern is maintaining the status quo that benefits them and their benefactors. The public, in their eyes, is not a constituency to be served but a force to be managed and controlled. This dynamic is evident in the way politicians react to grassroots movements and demands for systemic change. Whether it's calls for economic justice, police reform, or environmental action, the response is often one of resistance, delay, or superficial concessions designed to placate rather than address the underlying issues. The power structures remain intact, and the cycle of exploitation continues. Conclusion: the political system, as it stands, is a scam that benefits a select few at the expense of the many. Politicians and elected representatives, regardless of party affiliation, are often more concerned with their own enrichment and the maintenance of power than with serving the public good. They operate like criminals with badges, protected by the very system they manipulate. And their competition is a carefully staged performance that distracts the public from the reality of their shared goals. The public, meanwhile, is left to pick sides like fans at a soccer game, unaware that the real contest is not between Democrats and Republicans, but between the elite and the people they claim to represent. Until this reality is acknowledged and addressed, the cycle of betrayal and exploitation will continue, with the public paying the price for the enrichment of the few.